Alright, hopefully you all are listening to this. So welcome to Ron Gamer Video. We're going to look at a comparison of Growthurn with the updated skills because devs have released a fix for the Panther skills. We're going to look at how that affects his stats when it comes to being a viable defender, especially compared to Necrosa. We'll also look at a comparison against Lifespark in a nice little chart. Hopefully that gives us all a good perspective of how well this Titan might hold up on defense. Of course, there are videos already on um, on sort of Yuki's channel, I think it was, and we've seen even Aventador take down one as well. So it is. It's. It. I mean, the Titan did not really stand the trial then, but maybe with the fix that we're seeing now, things might be a bit different. So we'll have a comparison, and the results might surprise you to an extent. So here are the fixed skills, the new skills rather to say. So we have 360% health, all of that is fine, but what the devs have done is they've added 200% health for the Titan and 200% health for the Panthers, which is something which I was pointing out as being one of the main limitations of Growthurn, and this was why the Panthers were getting so easily swiped out by even solo builds, especially the Z virus that was causing that to happen. Not the Zalon virus. I'm talking about the Zabava virus, so the Zabava Titan. So 200% health there, and also what they've done is they've added another 30% resist to all elements, so that takes Growthurn to 60% all elemental resist, and that is great because now what that means is you only need one mount armor to defend yourself against a specific element. So possibly lightning would be the main contender, so you could just put in a mount armor with lightning resist there, and that will cover that up. But of course, probably more interesting would be to cover all elements, so elemental grasp, and couple that with, let's say, what can we use, one of those forest carvings or one of those relics. Yeah, you could quite easily hit on 800% with just two other relics. Or if you have the bow of gods, that's one relic to completely cover all the elements. So bow of gods would be absolutely great for Grothan, especially on defense, to cover all the elements with just one relic. But honestly, that's not the only relic that could be relevant. The Stormbringer could also definitely come in play now as well, especially because the amount of health Stormbringer can introduce, plus the damage that you can get for the troop damage. So all the other stats aren't changed as well. So all the damage is pretty interesting because on defense you're looking at 780% damage. So these Panthers will pack a punch if you can't keep them at bay. So yeah, and now with the recent slight nerf that Zabava has gotten to the health and damage, maybe we shall see Zabava not being able to take down at least solo builds, being able to take down Growthurn. So yeah. That is worthy, that's interesting. So that was the change that we've noticed. All the other stuff is the same. So now I'm going to do a big comparison of all of them. So yeah, hopefully you can see this quite clearly on your screens. I've tried to be as informative with these details here. I've done a comparison between Necrosa and Lifespark before. If you want to check that out in more detail, just search all Panther Titans compared, and I do a comparison of those. But let's have a look now at how Growthurn fares up against Necrosa first. We'll then have a quick discussion with the Lifespark. So in terms of defender, notice Necrosa is a guardian, so normally people will equip the 5-star Nos relic and use that to max out the melee and range resist or nearly max out the range resist for Necrosa because he hit 90%. Or you can, but when it comes to Growthurn, if you want to achieve the same, you will need a little bit more. But do note that you get 60% melee resist on defense, so you only need to put in another 20% to max out. Remember, melee only caps out at 80, so you can't go any further. Even going further does nothing. So 20% is what you will need, but you will of course have to work on range resist, and none of the 5-star relics for the rangers actually give you a range resistance. So given that, you would probably have to focus on relics to do that. But there are quite a few there. One of them I can think of straight away is the Banner of War. That can give you 20% for both, and that will let you max out the melee in one go and get to 60% range there. And perhaps with using the forest carving one of those, you could hit max resistance as well. So quite easy to do that. So they are good that way as well. But it'll be easy anyway overall to max out the melee and range for Necrosa compared to Growthurn. But other than that, if you look at the actual resistances, you've got 60% void and 60% lightning resist. So now it's very specific that you get this, but with Growthurn you get the same 60% but for all elements. So definitely when it comes to resistances, Growthurn takes the edge, and you can basically you don't have to worry about which element the attacker is bringing in. As long as you can max the add two relics, as I mentioned before, you should be able to max out all resistances. So yeah, there's that. Sorry, give me a second for that, clear my throat. So that's that there. Then if you look at the health now because I've introduced 20% health, yes, that's quite a lot, but Necrosa still wins when it comes to health. But one important difference though is Grothan probably has more of a utility even on attack. So yes, all the stats you see there seem to be priming it up for defense, but Grothan can actually do both, I think, pretty well. Of course, when we come to Lifespark, we shall see where Grothan falls on being an attacker, but definitely that 20% health there which you get is 20% more than what you will get with Necrosa if you took, which may not be a lot really, but something definitely to consider. But also do notice that the prestige skill for Necrosa actually grants additional 20% base health over what Growthurn actually also does. So I think overall they probably are. I would probably say they are matched when it comes to attack. But when it comes to defense, Necrosa definitely blows Grothan out of the water when it comes to Panther health, and similarly for Panther armor, because armor, they're matched rather. Sorry, they're matched because both of them have the same stats for defense. So both will look at 300% armor, which is absolutely brilliant, because not a lot of attackers are going to come in with that much amount of armor piercing. So that's why a lot of folks will prefer solo titans, especially titans with Night Prisp per run, to take their armor piercing in the 400 region. So yeah, that's that. Now it comes to melee and range resist, you got slightly more on Necrosa compared to Growthurn. I think I already spoke about that, isn't it? Sorry, I'm repeating myself now. So yeah, I covered that already. So let's now look at the Invoke skills. So you've got what Necrosa does is every 20 seconds and every time the battle begins. So the first 0th second, every 20th second, you're going to get 30% Panther armor. So armor keeps stacking up for Necrosa. And actually, interestingly, armor can also start stacking up, but not infinitely for Growthurn. I mean, even the case of Necrosa is not infinite because the battle will end, so it's only every 20 seconds. But for Growthurn, what happens is if your troops die, well, first of all, it will heal your troops 20%, which is amazing, and it will grant you plus 30% troop armor, apart from also, of course, giving you poison damage, that's Panther damage, armor piercing, all of that. So that's obviously very nice, but the armor again stacks up. Notice 30% being the same for both. So it all comes down to then, well, how many of your troops will die for you to get a effect that will put the armor at comparable levels to Necrosa. So if you assume, let's say a 5-minute battle, you're looking at 10, well, let's see, 0 and 30, so 2 times you can have that in a minute, in a half minute, so 4 times a minute, so 4 events take place, which result, well, not first, but 0, let me just count in my head, 0, 20, 40 and 60, so you're going to get 4 times in the first minute and then the 3 after that. So yeah, so well, let's just say 3 times 4, 12. Yeah, so the armor can go up to 15 times more. You can get another 400%. Let's say 400% armor extra from the skill here, which is obviously brilliant because you can add that to 300%, taking it up to 700% is the total amount of armor that you can keep stacking up for a very, very long battle. But in order for you to achieve the same effect, you will have to actually lose 10 of your troops. And this is where some strategy could come in. So if you plan to get growth, one of the things you could probably consider doing is going into the battle with skeleton troops and drop skeletons on your enemy, let the skeletons die, and that should serve as fodder for improving this. Of course, you can't take in 10 of those spells, but let's say you take 5 or 6 of those spells, kill them off, and all your panthers now straight away start up with extra armor and all the other strats as well. Notice one of the biggest difference also between Grothan and Necrosa is of course the absence of damage. So all that extra damage will also mean that whatever's attacking them, or whatever was used previously to attack Necrosa, will probably not work in the exact same way when it comes to Growthurn, or at least result in the attacker suffering heavy losses. So the Growthurn can definitely takes an edge when it comes to dealing damage out to who was attacking her. So that's really good. So that's regarding the armor. We can also talk about, let's ignore I'm ignoring all the horde buffs, but you can read them if you want, because they're trying to be comprehensive. Now that 360% health there for the horde, I'm not really sure about, because Yuki's website kind of has a text error for that, so not really sure what the health is, but it's probably a large amount of health, but nobody really uses, or rather should be using Necrosa, in my opinion at least, for as a whole build. Anyway, let's get back to what we're talking about. Now the other skill is every third event, and this is where Necrosa has something very special. Every third invoke event, so that's the first invoke event, that's the second invoke event. Now all of these are invoke events. So battle start would be an invoke event, 22nd would be an invoke event. So there's an invoke event basically every 10 seconds. So 0, then 10, then 20, then 30, so on and so forth. So every 10 seconds something happens. So what that means is every 20th second, so that's 0, 10 and 20, you're going to get an Omega Panther or Omega Horde that's going to pop up. So I believe they are at 50%, or I'm not sure whether they are equal or it's just a random, but if it's going to be random, it's still a roll of a dice, so it's 50% anyway. So you're going to get one of these troops. You can really, for a long battle, you can potentially have a very large amount of Omega Panthers in the field, which your Grothan doesn't have. And remember, each of those Panthers will also get all the health and armor buffs like that, so that will make them even more hardy. So Necrosa definitely has an edge in number of troops that she can bring into the field, but Growthurn though doesn't have that. But what Grothan does definitely more is the damage, as I mentioned. Every Panther is gonna cause more pain, I would say, to the attacker compared to Necrosa. Now, my particular favorite Titan I used to use, well, I still use today, to be honest, to a large extent, is Totek. And Totek used to do very well because, or hopefully will still do, because he used to be able to summon his own Omega Imperials, and that used to help counter all of this. But now with Growthurn, because there's no extra troops, I wonder how that works. Especially if these Panthers don't actually manage to kill any of the attacking Imperials, but actually, hold that thought, that's not going to happen, because remember, Necrosa had no damage, but Grothan has damage, so I would say Totek has no chance against Grothan. I think if you're going to be attacking Grothan, if that comes up, yep, it's definitely, I mean, Zabawa is a very strong contender and probably will pull a win with a troop buff, but a solo buff, I highly doubt it, at least with the change we're seeing now. I mean, even if there's a win, it's going to be with a very, very specific build that's going to be pulled off. That's my guess there. So yeah, I think that's good. Now in terms of the prestige skill, remember I mentioned the 50% base Panther health, but what I really do like is the fact that you also get Panther damage, and that of course comes from the Ranger trait, because Rangers have kind of a half and half what they do between health and damage. So I think overall I find Grothan to be of a more fun Titan, I would say, than Necrosa, because Necrosa would serve, yeah, probably would serve a very, is pretty primed to be a defender. But Grothan can do best of both, I think, or not best of both, but uh, can do almost, I would say, 60 to 70% or more of what each of these Titans, the left and right, can do in their respective either defensive or attacks category. So I do really like Grothan, and very tempted to maybe pull one when I get that when I get the chance to go and do that. So yeah, curious, but not sure where I will do that right away, because I'll probably will look out for more testing videos from the SPP players. So yeah, that's that, guys. And of course, the other great thing is the faster spell rate at which Grothan cast a spell. So whatever it is that, so whenever you're on defense, if you're gonna equip, let's say, a lot of shield spells, those shield spells are gonna drop quicker. If you're gonna have raid spells, they're gonna drop quicker, and what that means is, guys, that when the attacker comes in, they're gonna have less time to react to the spells dropping on them. So yeah, that's less a gap as well. I believe Grothan will probably, you'll see a lot more shield spells, and a Staff of Earth could definitely be one to consider for Grothan, because if you have Staff of Earth, you extend the duration of your shield spells, and with that 40% faster cast, you could reach a point where your Panthers are shielded for a very considerable amount of time, rather, for the duration of the battle. So yeah, I think lots of interesting builds can be made with this. And the other, of course, the interesting stuff that happens is every 7 seconds you get these so-called poison elementals, which, as I discussed here, what the poison elementals are, they are mini berserkers, but they're essentially meant to die. But remember, they don't they count as titans and not troops. So I don't think, and I remember someone discussing this on Lord of the Flies stream, whether if they die, does that count as an enemy allied troop? That I don't think so, because they are specifically called mini berserker titans, so they're titans, I think. And I remember seeing animation when they die on one of, I think, Battle of Aventador's video. When the elementals die, they have that same sort of go to heaven godlike emanation from them. So yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. So yeah, just keep that. But I think the whole point of elementals is just to sort of them be sort of suicide titans. They go in there, hopefully manage to make a few kills here and there, surprise the enemy. Probably a counter to some sort of ranged attacker. So if they manage to catch one of your Storm Maidens by by surprise, they might swipe them out. So you got to look out for them. But if you're going with a solo build, they're not going to cause too much of a damage. And of course, the poison sludge, as I mentioned, is essentially just to slow down the enemy, and you can slow down the enemy by 60%. And so yeah, that should be interesting as well. So let's get back now to the other comparison. Hopefully you are still alive or still awake while watching this video, and finding it informative as you are. And let's have as I'm hoping to be, rather. So let's have a look at Growthurn versus Lifespark now. And this is where what I said earlier would probably come into play again. That's the fact that, hey, Growthurn's got a lot of stuff that Lifespark also has, namely damage. So if you look at what Growthurn does when it comes to damage, let's talk about attack as well, because Lifespark's attack, isn't it? So Lifespark brings in 750% damage buff, but what does Growthurn do? 480% damage buff. Right. So that's obviously lesser than that, but do remember, this skill, which can be quite easily forgotten, whenever your enemy troop dies, you stack up more damage. Now let's say let's say you carry in 5 of those skeleton spells, as I just mentioned. So you get 150%. Let's say they die pretty quickly, you're going to get 150% buff on that. So you can take that 480 on attack to 630. Still not close to 750, but you've still got 5 more. So if your 5 of your Panthers die, that you can take that further up by 150, and that, guess what, it reaches the same amount of damage as Lifespark. Isn't that interesting? So technically, if you can create a build such that you bring in, let's say, five of your shield spells, five of your raised dead spells, or is it six that you can bring the maximum? I can't remember, but essentially, if you bring in those sort of raised dead spells, have them killed, and have some of your other troops killed. In fact, I would say a great build would be to take in all Panthers, but take in maybe 3 or 4 militia and let the militia die off. And after the militia die off, they will help you boost the damage up. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. And I think, so what you can see from here is what I'm trying to show is that Growthurn, we're ignoring the prestige skill at the moment, but if you ignore the prestige skill, your Growthurn can have the same amount of damage as Lifespark. Isn't that good? But where one thing that you got to keep in mind, which again Grothan doesn't have compared to Necrosa, is the ability to summon Omega Panthers. So every third invoke event, and invoke event count is the same as Necrosa, every 20th second, you can have an Omega Panther or Omega Maiden in the field, which is amazing, and that is absent. So which is why Lifespark still is in my analysis over here, comes out to be definitely a stronger attacker than Growthurn. Not to mention the additional 40% base Panther damage buff, and that is a significant amount. So yep, definitely Lifespark still remains the uber Panther attacker, and Growthurn is not too far though, not too far. I'm pretty impressed. In fact, I think Growthurn being a ranger, and the fact that when you look at the relics available, the Stormbringer, you can buff that up further. And of course, we all know the Axis of War is the one that is used for Necrosa, for Lifespark. Sorry. So yeah, I think a very good one to go for. It'd be interesting to make a comparison. I might do that at some point of Grothan versus Nergal and as well. So I'm pretty sure Grothan is going to come out on the top overall. So yeah, absolutely brilliant, isn't it? But yeah, I think if you're considering getting Growthurn, then you should probably think of it from the perspective that, hey, are you looking for a Titan that can do pretty well on both attack and defense? I think in that case, Growthurn will be the one to go for. But if you just want something which can be absolutely fantastic on attack, then Lifespark will remain that. And Nekrosa could be worth considering, but I think in today's meta, Nekrosa is probably one you can skip, because there isn't a massive difference between Necrosa and Grothan as much as I find between Growthurn and Lifespark. Again, the difference isn't massive either way, but the relative difference between Necrosa and Growthurn is lesser compared to Grothan and Lifespark. Just my opinion in the respective categories. So you can of course make analysis on that as well. Again, other things to mention as well. Remember when you talk about melee and range resist, what Lifespark does also get is a 40%, like 10% more than what Grothan will get on attack, and the range is the same, and Grothan has the same elemental resist as Lifespark. So a lot of skills match up quite nicely there as well. But what other thing probably worth mentioning in Lifespark is the increase in the amount of AP that you can get. So now again, this is where if you look a little more in detail, you'll find out that actually Grothan can get to the same amount, because you're talking 450% AP over here, and you've got 150% AP when it comes to attack, right? So if you get 10 of these events, 10 times 30 is 300, 300 plus 150 is 450. So you can technically have Panther with the same amount of armor piercing and same amount of damage as Lifespark, when you don't consider the prestige skills, and you kind of ignore the fact that Lifespark's got Omega Panthers. So I think that said, I think Grothan is very good in my opinion. I think it's going to be a very fun Titan, especially to get. And this is one of those Titans where, unlike either of the other ones, like for example, you get a Necrosa, you probably won't use it for attack much. It's going to lie on your land, and you're not going to have fun with it per se. And Lifespark is the one you will be, yeah, you can use it, you'll max it out, but after it's maxed out, you can put it on land for sure, and it probably will get you greens, but it's not, because it's not primed to be a defender. Remember, the absence of health is Lifespark is literally going to get zapped, sparked by Zabava. Grothan will not that easily, at least. So keep that in mind. But Prestige skill as well. Remember what Necrosa also does pretty well. Of course, you get a shield spell on the Panthers below 50%. But what Growthurn does is cause a sludge which slows the enemy down. So different effects really, and what Lifespark does is cause rage. So Lifespark is totally primed for attack. I think still when it comes to attack, Lifespark takes an edge, but Growthurn isn't massively behind. Although yeah, the damage is going to be different. It's going to be different there, but so Lifespark will certainly do a lot of things that Growthurn can't on attack. But Grothan will surprise many in terms of what he can do as an attacker, and although the way the skills seem to be laid out, you might think he's only a prime to be a defender. So yeah, that's my analysis, guys. So hope you found this useful, gives you some insight on how these titans are. I'll be doing a similar comparison for the slight changes that have come up for Nephilinus, but it's a very minor change, so I don't know if I might do a video on that, but I definitely wanted to make a video on Growthurn's changes. I think it definitely makes this titan more exciting. So hopefully you find this useful. If you did, do let me know in the comments, and yeah, let me know if you had the divine gems, or if you already have the divine gems, whether you will be considering pulling Growthurn. Alright, thank you for watching.